Hi, you'll have to excuse my voice for this vlog because I have got a really bad cold that I've woke up with this morning. I think it's the stress of Eurovision that was last night, and that's always a stressful night if you're from the UK. Tense bit of voting if you didn't watch it. The last bit where we thought Sweden were going to pip it, that was tense. I was rooting for Sweden, partly because I can claim ancestry there, so it's technically a win for me, and partly because if Sweden hosted it, then Måns Zelmerlöw and Petra Mede would have hosted it probably, and they are my two favourite Eurovision hosts ever. They're brilliant. Måns was on last night singing, and he's a brilliant host as well. But we didn't get that. We're off to the Netherlands next year, so that'll be interesting. They haven't won since the mid 70s. I think it's like 45 years since they won. So, yeah, let's see what happens there. Yeah, I think he's as stressed as that. That's given me all of that. Maybe I'll be fine tomorrow, who knows. But what I actually wanted to kind of ramble on about for a bit is a bit off the beaten track for me, I grant you. But I'm angry. I want to talk about the abortion bill that's been passed in the United States this week. Or over the last couple of weeks, a couple of different states have changed their laws and legislation around abortion, and when you can actually have an abortion, under what circumstances, and basically restricted women's freedom to choose what goes on with their own body. That ain't right, okay, and I'm annoyed about it. Also, I know that Northern Ireland is in not much of a better place. They're in a very similar situation in regards to the restrictions that laws have placed on women in terms of when they're actually allowed to decide what goes on in their own uterus. And that just isn't sitting right with me. It'll come as a surprise to none of you that I am obviously very much one of these people that gets angry about women's oppression. I've got in my spare room a picture wall of famous women. So I've got Hedy Lamarr, I've got Josephine Baker, I've got Margaret Hamilton, who wrote the code that sent man onto the moon, even though you've never heard of her. She's the most important woman in science. So I do get quite angry about these issues. So prepare for me to be a bit annoyed in this one. I think the voting in the southern United States, because that's where it is just ludicrous. They have restricted abortion to, depending on state, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, that kind of time frame. Now, at that point in a pregnancy, that is just insane. That it's more hassle to have a tooth out, and no one's restricting you doing that. So I can't really weigh that up. It's also being punishable by up to 99 years in jail. So basically, you can be the victim of a sexual assault, not want to have to put your life at risk potentially to have a baby because there might be medical reasons why you can't do that, and also you shouldn't have to if you don't want to. And just because of that, you are going to spend the rest of your life in prison, where a man who has raped you might get a few months, a year, a couple of years, depending on how the judge is feeling that day. Basically, is what happens there, isn't it? It depends on if the judge is thinking, oh, boys will be boys, because we've heard that before, haven't we? And I can't understand how committing a horrendous assault can be less serious in the eyes of the law than taking steps to control what is going on within your own body. I know that I am very lucky to live in a time where women have better rights than we did 100, 150 years ago. I know that. I know that women have fought very hard to get the world and the society to a place where I can do the things that I want to do without somebody going, you're a woman, back off. That I'm very grateful to that every single day, that I live in the world where many doors are open to me that were not open to women. Even 50 years ago, the doors that are open to me would not be available widely. But I'm also very grateful, and I'm not liable to get myself pregnant anytime soon. That's The odds are slim, let's be fair. But I know that if I were to fall pregnant at some time in my life, I can take steps that I don't actually have to, have a baby. I'm very grateful for the fact that if one day I should find myself up the spout, I can just go down the doctors and go, yeah, well, you could stop that. It's like if I had a toothache and I went to the dentist and they said, well, you can live with the pain or I can take it out for you. I'd get them to take it out for me. It's the same basic principle. I don't understand why all these men that voted for the laws that have been passed in Alabama, Missouri, and all these other states, why they think that it's any different. It's extracting what is essentially a cyst from your body at that stage of pregnancy. And you know what? Even if you want to go right up to I think the limit here is 24 weeks or something. Even if you want to go up to 23 weeks, where there is more development of this being, you can. It is your body. You control what is going on in there. I decided to make a list of all the people that I think should be allowed, other than me, control of my uterus. Oh, hey, look, it's a blank sheet of paper. Nobody, okay? It's insane that we're in a society now where it's almost like women are taking a step back in terms of legislation that surrounds our well-being and our health and our safety as much as anything. When abortion was illegal in this country, did less people, get pregnant, or did less people actually have an abortion? No, it was just a lot more unsafe. We should be very grateful that laws were passed in Great Britain whereby if a woman should get pregnant, she doesn't have to do something horrendous with a knitting needle or go to some backstreet grubby little house where someone's going to essentially use a metal poker to try and just wiggle around until the problem's solved. That's very dangerous. The amount of women that died from procedures like that, we may never know an actual number of it. And I don't understand how people can be so stupid to think that outlawing abortion will somehow stop these things from happening and coming back. It absolutely won't. My other major issue with it is I feel like, especially the situation, I guess, in Northern Ireland, where and in the Southern United States, is the bringing kind of religion into it and so-called Christianity. Now, I don't have a religion. I don't believe in religion. I think if you live your life to be the best person you can be and try and help out others if you can and do no harm and, all that good stuff, then guess what? I think you're doing your life right. I don't think you need to pretend that there's an imaginary friend telling you that that's okay. I don't think that's necessary. Of any religion, that's not just a slight on Christianity. I don't believe in organised religion as a whole. However, what I believe in even less is bringing religion into a political argument. People have quoted Bible verses saying that abortion is wrong and, you should go forth and multiply and all that flannel that Christians and other religious groups, let's not just, turn this into a real aggressive rant against Christianity. That's not what this is. They quote all these things like that. My question for these people, because they're the same people that say that homosexuality is an abomination because they go around saying it's in Leviticus. Well, guess what? Also in Leviticus, it says that you should not grow more than 2 types of crops in one field, and you shouldn't wear clothes made of 2 types of fabric because that is an abomination as well. Because the Bible, that particular verse of it, was written at a time when Christianity was trying to grow because they had been oppressed and their numbers were very small and they were trying to grow this, and the easiest way to do it was not be wasteful, to procreate, to grow all these crops to feed themselves, to make themselves stronger, to go out and spread the word. That's fine in that context. Guess what? That is not the case anymore. People who protest against abortion and Christianity, by my book, should also go protest against allotments. I've never yet seen anybody claiming the word of God outside an allotment saying you've got your cabbages in with broccoli, you're going to hell. Anybody that's ever seen that or claims to have seen that is a liar. That's never happened. I will put my house on the fact that in history that has never occurred, okay? I would also like to know, incidentally, how many of these so-called Christians go around wearing polyester and cotton underwear? Because guess what? You're an abomination too. There's the same place in hell for you. But we seem to forget that somehow. That seems to be less important. But it's not. It all comes from the same context and the same chunk of the Bible that they go around quoting. But you know what? That's fine. Have your beliefs. Have your beliefs. Believe in whatever you want to believe. I have no issues with that whatsoever. My issues come from when you pick and choose for your own agenda. And people who claim to be pro-life, particularly in these southern American states, are also the states where executions happen for crimes. You can't be pro-life and pro-putting people to death in the same breath. It doesn't work. You can't say, yeah, I'm going to force this 15-year-old girl that has been groomed and has ended up pregnant. I'm going to force her to have this baby that will either end up in a children's home or below the poverty line because she might not be able to finish school and therefore not be able to get as good of a job or fulfill her ambitions. She'll be more prone to depression, she'll be more prone to mental illness and potentially like substance abuse, because these statistics all add up that there is a very clear divide in that. They can't say that that's acceptable, ruining one girl's life for the sake of, as I say, a few cells, and then say, no, do you know what, I'm going to kill this person. You can't do that. That's not pro-life, that's just anti-choice. And there's a very big difference. If you are seriously pro-life and you believe that there shouldn't be abortions full stop, that's fine if that's what you believe. But then also be pro-life in that you want to end execution. You want to do good deeds and put people that are at risk, get them help, get people off the streets where they're safer, try and help people get clean they're addicted to substances, get their lives back on track. That is pro-life. You can't be one thing without the other, okay? The thing about being pro-choice is I'm fine with people saying that they do not want to do that if they were in their circumstances. Guess what? They've made a choice to do that. That's what choice is. Choice isn't agreeing with me regardless and saying, yep, get rid of that thing. That's not what it is. Being pro-choice is saying, I've considered all the options. This is the one that is right for me because I have the freedom to do so. And taking away women's fundamental freedom over their own body, that doesn't feel very progressive and very like we're in the 21st century. That feels terrifying. That feels very frighteningly like we've regressed to the turn of the last century. That feels like we're in a time when it was legally allowed to beat your wife so long as you didn't do it too badly. And that doesn't sit right with me. That can't sit right with anybody, and I don't understand how these things are happening. So yeah, kind of long story short, I'm angry about this. I just out of interest, I looked it up to see how much an abortion cost in comparison to, just for argument's sake, a vasectomy, which would be something that would obviously be legislated for men. And the cost is very slightly more for abortion, depending on where in the term you abort. But at the latest term abortion that you're legally allowed in the UK, if you did that in America, where obviously you pay for everything, it's about the same as if you paid for a vasectomy. So why is the reproductive organs of a female allowed to be legislated in this way? I mean, remember the bit in Legally Blonde where they're doing like the dummy case and she's saying about the sperm donor that wanted access to his son, and Warner says something about, without the guy's sperm, the child in question wouldn't exist. And Elle stands up and says, but you must then say that all emissions where the sperm wasn't seeking an egg, that's reckless abandonment. So you can't have a law that is negative to women just because it's a man. Same thing. You know what? That film came out like nearly 20 years ago. And we're still at the point where we're going, oh yeah, that's forward thinking. Like, how long will this take? How long will this take before actually my body is my business? It's just crazy. I don't understand it. You know what? If you do not have a uterus and you will not be in a position where potentially you will have to do something life threatening to yourself to end a pregnancy, do you know what? You do not get a say over it. I wouldn't dream of going up to a group of men and going, you're allowed a vasectomy, you're allowed a vasectomy, you're not. So guess what? This ain't none of nobody else's business. You ain't got one, you ain't talking about it, pal. There's no two ways about that. Unless it's insofar as to say, I'm backing off. That's the only thing you're allowed to say about this if you're a man. I'm backing off. Do what you want, okay? It's crazy. It's crazy. It's like, you know, other forms of legislation and things that are very specific to different people. I don't claim to, I don't know, have much knowledge of, you know, Middle Eastern customs or the way that, you know, like communism or Chinese medicine or anything that is so far at my sphere of knowledge and influence. I don't claim to be an expert on that. So I wouldn't claim to be an expert on something that I physically couldn't be an expert on. And I'm very grateful to live in the United Kingdom where these things are not so much of an issue right now. What makes me afraid is that at some point it could become an issue, and we definitely need to be angry about this, about how people might not even know they are pregnant until it gets past the date that they can do anything about it. Or they can only do unsafe things about it. Or they can travel outside of the state and risk spending all the rest of their life in jail. Either way, they will potentially ruin their life. How is that pro-life? I don't understand that. That's not pro-life. That's just restricting women's rights. And that is not right at all.